Well, hello, hello. I am sorry for the delay. It has been, well, I've been exhausted really. I actually just got back from Bali a couple days ago. So just kind of been getting everything situated. This is the first day kind of back to work. So apologize for being late and looking like this. How's everybody doing? Hopefully, you're having either a good Monday night or maybe it's Tuesday morning, like it is for you. Today, or for me, today we're going to be going over some of the latest camera news. We have the Sony A7R5, which has got a specific launch date, at least according to Sony Alpha rumors. So that should be very interesting. He's also talked about Don said, "Matt, for a second I thought it's Saturday. No, it's not Saturday. I know it feels like that because usually Sunday morning for me and then Saturday night for everybody else. We got back from the full trip. It was like late Saturday night, so I just felt like try it on a different night and see what's happening. And so far, we got quite a few people. So maybe this is a better time slot than Saturday. We will just have to wait and see. Um, so we're gonna go over the Sony Alpha rumors. Let me know how my mic and stuff is doing. If I'm too loud, or if I'm anything like that, just let me know. So go over Sony Alpha rumors, the thing about the Sony A7R5, and then we're going to talk about the Sony FX30 because apparently that has like a release date as well, or a general timeline according to Sony Alpha rumors. We will talk about a little bit of extra, let's just say, I don't know about vindication necessarily, because most people know here some ideas of if you tune in, you get some insights about certain cameras. But the Sony ZV-1 Mark II, we're going to call it, for lack of a better term. Even Sony Alpha Rumors is now saying that it's not a Sony ZV-E camera with the interchangeable lens, that it is going to be a Sony ZV point and shoot. So whether or not that's a ZV-1 Mark II, but we were talking about that the other week. I actually had a video about it. So it's good to know that it's not just me having that information, that there's somebody else that's validating that information. So it makes it more likely to be true. There was one other story. Oh, Tamron. Tamron had a new lens that also got announced, or not announced, but accidentally leaked. I think it's an interesting lens. Personally, I don't see the benefit as much as maybe other people will, so I just kind of want to get everybody's opinion on it. But yeah, let me jump over to Sony Alpha rumors, and we'll just start going through some of the different stuff. I haven't updated it this morning for me, so we'll see if some new stuff just happens to come up. Sometimes it does. If you're here and you're in the chat, be sure to hit that like button to get this out to more people, and I would love to chat with you. So get a conversation going. Don, if you can keep talking. But if you're listening or whatever you're doing, I appreciate you being here. Just to hit that like button, we'll get this out to more people. Okay. All right. With all that out of the way, let's see here. Let's get over to. Okay, so this is the lens. This is from Tamron. This is a 20 to 40 millimeter f 2.8 for Sony. Personally, this is a little bit of an odd one for me. I wouldn't expect a lens like this. Now, they actually have a pamphlet that leaked as well, um, which was right here. It says standard zoom gets a new start. Zoom from 20 millimeter ultra wide to normal. I don't know how I feel about it. I honestly don't feel like 20 is ultra wide. I think of it as wide. I guess 24 is like the start of wide, so maybe 20 is ultra wide. But with everything that can go, and a lot of lenses that are in the wide, the ultra wide category start somewhere around 16 millimeters or 17 if you're Tamron. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. Personally, I think that 20 millimeters would be too tight, and going up to 40 millimeters, at that point I would rather put on a 24 to 70. That's how I see this. Um, I have Tamron's 17 to 28. It's a really good lens. and I use it. It's almost my workhorse at this point, doing like the outside stuff and travel stuff. Um, but I'm finding it very limiting, not being able to go to 35. So this is just another lens that I find a little odd, but it looks like it is going to be compact. At least, I mean, there's nothing to really compare it to, but Tamrons are usually fairly compact. Um, so, I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think on this lens in particular? I think it's an odd one, but I do like the creativity that Tamron is bringing to the lens market, like their 35 to 152 to 2.8. I think that's a brilliant lens, or at least that's the lens I wanted. I was on a waiting list for like 3 months and it never came through before my trip. But I think it's a good lens, and from all reviews, it's been really good. And then I like their 50 to 400 that they just released. That's another lens that I think is a winner. So maybe there's something more there than I know, but to me, this one doesn't interest me quite as much. Drop in the chat, let me know. All right, let's go. Let me go ahead and refresh here on Sony Alpha Rumors. We might get something good. Okay, Luminar extensions for best price. Oh, great. Okay. Anyways, that's not anything. I mean, I like Luminar. I use Luminar. I dropped Photoshop a while back ago, actually, but yeah, that's nothing for us. Here we go. Fuji. Oh, this is new. I just checked Fuji rumors last night, and this wasn't there. Fujifilm just broke all the rules for APS-C cameras. All right. Resolution test. All right, so let's see what they're saying here. We thought the APS-C sensors had reached their resolution limit, especially with the lack of significant increase in real-world resolution. Canon's 32.5 megapixel sensor. But the Fujifilm X-H2 has blown that idea out of the water, and resolution superior with resolution superior to all, but a handful of full-frame and medium format cameras at a price that is easily undercuts them all. If anyone was thinking that APS-C had had its day and that full frame was the future, then Fujifilm has just blown that idea out of the water. Okay, so I'm not really seeing any. Okay, so here's some graphs. Oh, this is interesting. Let's see what that is. So the noise is to be expected, I would assume. Let me jump back over to the chat before we go to the next stuff. Here, dynamic range. I mean, that's an impressive dynamic range. What are these yellow? Okay, the yellow is the, okay. All right. All right, this is worth noting. So this is the Sony A7 6600, and it's the Canon R7 is the yellow, which we know Canon. I love a lot of what Canon's doing, but overall, unless you have that dual gain ISO, their sensors have not had the best dynamic range. They've just been behind in that category for whatever reason. They're ahead in a lot of other categories, but that category they're behind in. The Sony 6600, that is also a very old sensor. So that doesn't surprise me at all that it would be beating that. I'm assuming that both of these Fujifilm cameras are newer Sony sensors, so probably the next generation over. Now, at the end, at the high end, but no one's going to be using this camera, in my mind, at 25,600 ISO. I mean, no one should be. Most people shouldn't be. Not on an APS-C camera. So this is basically your top end. This is where you'd want to see it, right? Maybe 3,200 or 64 at the worst, or whatever. So let's just say right here is where you want to live. One thing it shows to me is that up to 800 ISO. I mean, actually, the Canon EOS R7 is a little bit better in dynamic range, which is kind of shocking. I mean, it drops off a cliff pretty far, but up to 800. I mean, this is still up there, which is interesting. I don't know. I don't know what this is telling us. I mean, other than 12 stops or whatever. Let me go back to this noise one really quick. Sorry, this is probably really lame content. Noise floor. So I'm maybe not as familiar with this one. Obviously, I think. I'm not as familiar with what that would be would be saying. I know of dynamic range tests, but I'm not sure how this one works out. And let me jump back over to chat. Is anybody talking? That would be appreciated if we are. Okay, we are talking. Yes. All right. Let's jump back over to the chat. Matt, for a second. Okay. Would love to hear more info about the Sony R5. Oh, yeah, we're going to go to that. This would be nice for weddings and getting a wide shot in ceremonies. It depends on the price. That's true, talking about the Tamron. Because I already have the 16mm Sigma. Jason says, tuning in while I work. Well, I appreciate you, Jason. You've actually inspired me, man, a whole lot. You really... you have no idea that conversation that we had a couple weeks ago. I very much appreciate it. I still want to segment out the video. I kind of want to do that when there's a week that I just have too much on my plate. But my wife and I went to Bali, and we were going to like create travel content the way we have been hoping to. And it was a lot of work, and there's a lot of footage, and which is great. But we've set like a schedule up. It's not going to be near as intense as your schedule, but we've actually scheduled out time for a day for like, this is when I edit, this is when my work schedule is, because just hearing your story about the way you schedule out your day just really kind of put into perspective of what I need to do to take my everything to the next level. So just thank you beyond thank you, Jason. I really appreciate it. Don says, why are they comparing it to a 6600? Well, because that's the high-end APS-C camera from Sony. I guess that's the reason, but I mean, it's old. Don, hey, Jason. Hey, Don. Okay, so we're called up. So, yeah, we'll talk about it. So let me go back to this would be a nice for weddings and getting a wide shot in ceremonies. Yeah, I mean, is that still enough of a zoom though? I mean, you know more than I do, Don, because you do weddings, but I don't know near as much as that. So maybe that's a little bit harder for me to say. But if I don't know, I just felt like it wouldn't be that big of a zoom. That's my biggest problem with the Tamron 17-28. The size is great, the sharpness is great. It's 2.8. It's light. It's great, but it's way you just don't get enough reach. And as for somebody who a lot of time is going really fast on the go, and like maybe I don't have time to switch as many lenses as I would like to, because I might not be in a location for super long. I just hate not having that reach. Don says, yeah, Jason's stuff is sick. Love what he does on Instagram and YouTube as well. Matt, thanks for recommending Jason a while ago in one of your lives. Well, I'm glad that you went and checked out Jason. He's really good at what he does, and I appreciate that he's been a supporter of mine early on, and I was just honored and humbled, I guess would be the word, or I don't know what the word is, but either way, I was excited to see that somebody on his caliber was finding value in what I was doing. So yeah. Let's go here. Long Rider, $5 super chat. You're always supporting me, Long Rider. I appreciate it, because I know I upset Long Rider most of the time. Like most of the time I come out, like I had my last video was the Canon EOS-R1 talking about, you know, the new King coming out, because I mean, what are we supposed to talk about? It's new super chat, or it's new flagship camera, and he was giving me a hard time on that. So I always appreciate when he drops in here, and obviously I appreciate any support I get, and I appreciate Long Rider. I really do. Don says it depends on the location, but it's a good option to have Zoom for weddings. No, I agree. It's a good option to have Zoom for weddings. I just I don't know if a 24 to 70 would be better option on that, because I would just think that you would maybe want to be able to take a step back. Like I've been actually loving, which is interesting, and I don't get to pull it out near as much as I would like. Just because the nature of what I'm doing. But I have the 85 Sigma 1.4 for Sony, and I really like that almost for more street photography, which is kind of odd. But because I think most people think of a 50 or even wider for street photography, but I like having the 85 because it's a fairly compact lens. It's not very conspicuous. I think is the right word. It's not out there and flamboyant or whatever. So you can kind of get people's moments without them necessarily knowing that you're taking their picture. And I don't mean that sounds creepy, stalkerish. I guess I mean from a perspective of like street photography, if you're trying to get somebody in their moment, with if it's a street vendor or whatever the case is, and you want to kind of get what they're doing, it's nice to have that and be able to step away, and so they don't necessarily pick up on that right away. So because you want to see them and catch them in the moment. Oh man, I have so many cool stuff to show you guys. Should I do that right now? Do y'all want to see some photography? I haven't edited any of this stuff, so this would literally be right out of the camera, right off the hard drive. But would y'all like to see some stuff from Bali, or do you want me to just keep going over to the news? We got 4 people here. I don't want to just like bog everybody down with what I'm doing, but I have like some stuff I haven't color graded, but I have some photography I'd be able to just pick out. But yeah, anyways, I won't do that. We can go over to the news. Okay, so Long Rider says, LL, you don't upset me. I'm just a ball breaker. There we go. Well, I'm glad I don't actually upset you, Long Rider. I really appreciate you tuning in here, and all your support for literally ever. It blew my mind. Like, I don't know how much confidence that Long Rider gave me, because he's still like the only person, but it was crazy. I complimented Long Rider has a hilarious shirt, or rather, I have that shirt now too. But he created this shirt that says, "If your R5 overheats, put a little A1 on it." And it's kind of back when the Sony Sony A1 came out and R5 was having all its issues. So I complimented that shirt off of David Osler, and I was like, I need to get one of those shirts to Long Rider. He's like, "What's your address? I'm going to send it to you." And I was like, oh, okay, he's going to send me a shirt. Like, I can't believe that's happening. So anyway, it was very. I like to use that story. Like, somebody who watches my channel sent me something. It was funny. All right. Don says, one day I'm going to be able to budget to spend and get the Siri lens. The video Jason had done made me want them more than ever. I want to see that video. Is that, am I pronouncing that right? I'm guessing those are cinema lenses, just based upon Jason does a lot more video stuff. Are those cinema lenses? Because that would be interesting to know. I need to go check out that video. Sorry, Jason, I hadn't seen that one yet. Okay, let me keep going over to the news here. If you're here and you're in the chat and you hadn't hit that like button, I really appreciate you hitting the like button. It gets this out to more people, and we can have a more in-depth conversation. Jason's listening to me, so let me, and he's not being able to interact. So instead of showing pictures and taking up people's time, let me just go over back up to the news. Here we are. All right, so that was new right here. I don't think we have anything else new. He had some thing on Fuji Rumors talking about, not just getting the latest and greatest. Is this just me? So last week I was talking about the Fujifilm X-H2, or last time I was on, so it's close to 2 weeks now because some issues. But we were talking about the X-H2. Kind of felt like I don't feel like it captured the narrative as much as the X-H2S did. So I want to know what people are saying about it, because I just hadn't. Maybe that's just the algorithm not working for me or doing different stuff. But usually I'm indicted with new camera stuff, and I just feel like I have not heard much about the X-H2. I was really excited for this camera, and I wonder how it's performing. I know the DP reviews, the specs are great on paper, but I just wonder how it's actually doing in the real world. So if anybody has seen a lot about it, maybe just drop in the chat and let us know. All right, let's go to Nikon. So Nikon, this is what Long Rider is like, has been very, I don't know, die hard is maybe not the right word, but he's very pro Sony. And I thought it was very interesting. He the other day was saying that Nikon has got his attention, and that if they make the right camera, basically a stacked sensor camera, other than I guess the Z9, he probably doesn't want that bulky of a body. Um, but he's saying if they make a stacked sensor camera, then he's going to be jumping ship to Nikon. And I was blown away by that. They have been making great moves. Let's see. Do we have any information? We got a Z8. Come on. Can we get a Z8 information? No. Okay. Some discontinued. All right. Well, that's good news. Sorry. Sigma DSLR lenses. I guess that's expected at this point. Nikon flash. Okay. Huh. Well, a new store in Germany, Berlin. Assuming that's Berlin, Germany. Yeah. So, okay. I guess. I mean, it looks nice, but I hope that Nikon is. I mean, it's always nice to see them opening new stores, because I feel like the narrative around cameras for a long time has been closing this, closing that, closing this, because the industry's just been contracting quite a bit. But to see them opening new things is always a good thing, because that means that maybe the health of the camera market is there, and it's growing, hopefully. Anyways, I'm not going to spend much time on that. Okay. I don't think we have too much from Nikon, but anybody in the chat, always let me know kind of what you're thinking about Nikon. I appreciate Nikon. I don't think Nikon is for me personally. Now, I've never shot with Nikon, so I would pick up a Nikon and be like, wow, this is for me. I don't know. I can really see the value in Nikon photography first. And I know it's kind of weird, because in a way the Z9 is like the heavy end 8K beast right now too, with all their features. And they also don't have a cinema line they're protecting. So I think Sony falls into the trap of trying to protect the cinema line too much. So maybe it's a bad argument, but I don't know. For some reason, I don't feel like Nikon and video are, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I just have a bad perception of it. I really like what they're doing on stills. I just feel like I hear more about the stills from an Nikon camera than I do the video. And being a video first guy, I don't necessarily. I think I'm good with Sony personally, but I could be wrong. All right, I'm gonna say that a lot today. Let's jump over to Canon rumors. So what do we got over here? Come on, there we go. So I went over this. I had a video about this. We haven't forgotten about the EOS R. Okay, just consent. So you leave me alone. No, do not consent. Leave you alone. Okay. Anyways, we haven't forgot about the EOS R1, and you probably haven't either. So I already had a story about this. I won't go over it too much, but I'd like to have a conversation, hopefully. So they're saying that the Canon EOS R1 will be coming the second half of 2023 for an announcement that would see teasers beginning in early spring, or beginning in spring. The latest information says that Canon's new flat resolution king, as well as a big will be Canon's resolution king, as well as a big focus on 8K video production, and tying in the EOS Cinema EOS, though it won't get a C variant. Sony, Nikon, and Leica topping out around 60 megapixels, 61 to be precise, with the 64. With anyways, good. Canon would be north of that if the reports are true. So it's kind of interesting to me that this, and I brought it up in the video, this is a CR2. Usually that's the monocle kind of means quite a bit to be CR2. It means, it's not just thrown out there. But the way they talk about it in the article, this seems more like CR1 information. So just because it just feels like it's a little less sure of itself than most articles have been in the past. So I wonder here if the C1, or sorry, the CR, like the CR2, is basically just about this information here, the second half 2023, and this other part is just kind of what's in the rumor sphere, and maybe he doesn't know as much, or whoever's doing this uh, doesn't know as much about the megapixels and that stuff. Maybe this is more speculation. So because this, it seems a little odd to me that they would go up to 60 something megapixels. The other thing is will be the new resolution king. I'm assuming that he's just basing it off the cameras are now, because the A7R5 is going to be coming out. A7, yes, the A7R5 is going to be coming out. We're talking about that next. That's maybe has the same megapixel sensor, but it could also have quite a bit higher megapixels. We'll have to wait and see on that. Canon was also supposed to have like a high end R5 variant, so an H variant. I think it would be H. I think that's what they do. Or no, S. Is S their high end? I can't remember. Anyway, it's a high resolution version of the R5 was supposed to be coming out, and that was like 80 plus megapixels. So I think that this could be a highest megapixel camera that's a flagship. So maybe it's higher than the A1. I don't know why you would want a flagship that's 61 megapixels. That's a lot of information for people to have to sift through. Now they do have those Type B cards, so at least that would be better than the Type A CF Express cards. But that's a big file for sports and wildlife people. I mean, 50 is nuts, but to have 60 is or more is stupid. I mean, stupid, but for that particular thing where you might be taking thousands of photos a day, having to sift through 61 megapixel still images to get what you want, that just sounds excessive and annoying. I don't know. All right. We'll go to Sony Alpha Rumors, and we're going to talk about this R5 launch. Let me go back to the chat and see where we're at on that. Here we go. Cool. Okay, so Don says, I'm going to have to drop. I've started editing. Wish you all have a great day. I'll watch the live tomorrow, see the feedback on the Sony A7R5. Yeah. Appreciate you, Don, for always showing up. Get to editing, get to work. I know that's literally like what I have to do right after the live. I have gonna work out, take care of my son for a minute, and then get to editing myself. So appreciate you showing up and checking it out later. Jason said, I started my journey with Nikon back in the day. So what was were you starting it as a videographer, or were you starting it photography first, Jason? I guess that's the next question that I would be asking. And then I guess what made you decide to move to Sony? Did you go more mirrorless, or can't remember how long you said you've been doing photography stuff. I think, was it 10 years that you've been doing in this industry? We were talking about before, you were saying that you were coming over from, or was it 6 years? You were coming over from personal training, but I wonder, like, were you a hobbyist with the camera first? Okay, so Nikon D90, I started as a photographer. Yeah, I think most people do start as a photographer in general, and I think Nikon's great for photographers. And I mean, obviously, it gets good video. For just some reason, when I think of Nikon, I do not think of video, and I don't know why that is. If you're here and you're watching and you hadn't hit that like button, please do. We can get this out to more people and get a broader conversation going, which is great. Everybody who's here and watching and participating, I really appreciate that as well. yeah, I don't know why I do not think of Nikon as a video centric camera first. It just maybe it's just the legacy of it, because I know that the Nikon tends to be the customers tend to lean on the older side, and they're usually photographers first. But yeah, I don't know. So Jason says, I knew mirrorless was going to be a big thing, so I switched to Sony A7 III before it dropped. Then I started video from then, and etc. And etc. Yeah, and etc. Um, yeah. So yeah, that makes sense. I think the A7 III was really groundbreaking in a lot of ways. That I feel like that camera put Sony on the map. That was the camera that everybody talked about for a long time. Because I think it was finally when Sony put everything together to a degree. I mean, they've improved tremendously. There were still arguments about too much green here or whatever the case is, um, but just the amount of how far they were ahead of the competition with that camera, to the fact where that camera sold well for, was 4 years or so, that camera was like on top, where Nikon and Canon, everybody was just still trying to catch up to that camera that had came out years prior to it. I guess that slightly so far has been disheartening me with where Sony is right now. I just don't feel like they're pushing things as much as they were in the past. I was a big fan of Sony's philosophy announcing cameras. They weren't protecting any other camera before, and that maybe upset some people because they might have bought the A7R3, and then the A7 regular comes out and it has better autofocus and different stuff like that. But I don't know. It just feels to me that I liked the philosophy of I would rather them be making my cameras feel obsolete and really pushing the industry forward than them trying to protect my camera and staying stagnant in development. So yeah, that's kind of a side rant, but hopefully that's going to end soon, because some people in this chat have more information than others, but they can't share. But Sony does have some new cameras coming out. If you're here watching, hit that like button, get this out to more people. Really appreciate it. Really helps out the video, the channel, everything. All right, so let's jump over to the Sony, the main event. We're going to talk about the Sony A7R5, and I'd like to be getting some input on what we think, some final spec predictions, until we actually get some official leaks. But according to Sony Alpha Rumors, which for some reason we're trusting them now, it's like we're talking about them like they're factual. That's mean. But according to Sony Alpha Rumors, who have been better than in the past, and I do think that they have some people coming out too. The Sony will announce the new A7R5 on October 26th. So where I'm at, or actually back in the United States, it's the 26th right now of September. Where I'm at, it's the 27th already. That being said, if that's the case, then we're right at a month away from hearing about this camera finally. Reliable source told me that Sony will announce the new Sony A7R5 on October 26th around 3 p.m. London time. I still have no reliable information about the specs, but I have shared some rumors in the video below. Please subscribe to my channel. Yeah, I think his name's Andre. He has a channel now as well. So if you like Sony Alpha Rumors, you might like his channel. I have been told that Sony is likely going to announce a new ZV camera in early October, but there's one, so ZV camera, he's not talking about it. This ain't going to be a new E-mount camera, but rather a fixed lens entry level. So that's a correction that he made, and it's interesting. It's like we had some information about this first. I don't know how. So yeah, that's interesting, but he's confirming that it's going to be a Sony ZV camera, so like a ZV-1 Mark II, or what else. Might be a different variant completely, but it is a point and shoot camera. I would like to see them maybe take on the RX line. It could be a ZV, keep that same name, but be more RX like. That would be nice. That'd be awesome. Um, so yeah, this this is where we're at with it. So let's go into some spec predictions. If you're in the chat and you're interested in the Sony A7R5, drop in the chat and let me know what are some of your spec predictions. Are you thinking this is going to be more of a revolutionary camera, or kind of stick with what Sony's been doing a little bit more recently and doing more of that little bit of an evolution rather than, you know, it still doesn't mean it's not solid cameras. The A7R4 is a super solid camera. So if they keep that same sensor and they just upgrade a lot of other things, that's still good. The practical side of me can see them, and based upon the past, I can see them almost keeping that same sensor. It's still top dog, and just improving some of the quality of life. You're going to get the better autofocus with the faster processor. Of course, you're going to have that better screen, even more updated ergonomics. They might update the video features because you'll have a faster processor, so you can get more out of that same sensor. Get the better the autofocus already, but you're getting all the different stuff on that. Maybe update the color science, and they might call it a day. That would be not what I'm hoping for, even though I know the 61 megapixels is really good. I'd like to see them maybe push it up. If you're going to have, I would just like to see a new sensor, even if it was a new 61 megapixel sensor. It's not really the megapixels that I care about, but I like seeing new sensor tech. I would love to see them. There were about a year ago, and maybe it's too soon. I don't know how far they were in the development. Maybe not quite a year ago, but they came out with a. Let me jump back over here. Stop sharing screen. Oh no, that's not good. Okay, so go back over here. So about a year ago, or so, maybe it was a little less. There was a big press announcement coming from Sony saying that they have a new type of stack sensor, which I've talked about multiple times. But the new type of stack sensor, apparently the way they lay it out, it gets double the light saturation. So assuming that was the case, it would, theoretically a 50 megapixel sensor would have the low light capability of a 25 megapixel sensor. A lot of things are never one-to-one, and something in use case may be different than something in a lab or whatever. But if that's the case, or if it's even close to the case, I would be very interesting. I think it would be. I would be very interested to see if they could put that type of stack sensor into a high megapixel camera. So if they had 80 megapixels, for example, and they put that stack sensor or whatever, it would have the low light capability of like a 40 megapixel sensor. And I mean, the low lights are already different the way Sony, the A1 has decent low light already for a lot of, by what a lot of people would think of a 50 megapixel sensor in the past. Like, that's incredible, but I would be interested to see that happening. But Sony's track record with their stacked sensors, even though this is a completely different time, but their track record is kind of slow. They announced regular stacked sensors back in, I think, 2015, and we've had 3 full frame cameras with that happening in the year 2022. So yeah, so I'm not super hopeful on that, but I'd like to see it. So the Happy Calm said Sony will protect the A1. The A7R5 will be evolutionary, not revolutionary. Yeah, I'm leaning that direction too. Oh, that's really unfortunate because you're at the same time. I do think that they may be hitting. I guess the counter argument of that, just to play devil's advocate here, the A7R4 is a slower camera. So if they had the new processors in that 61 megapixel sensor, I mean, you might be getting better performance with that than you would want for that particular style of camera. And what I mean, in a way, you might be crippling biting into the A1, and maybe they could always cripple it purposely, but if you had that 61 megapixel sensor with higher processing ability and you could shoot a lot faster, to me that would be hitting the A1 more so than them putting a new sensor in that's 90 plus megapixels or something, whatever. That's still slower, because if it's still slower, uh, then it's not going to be. A lot of people who want the A1, they need it for speed. So yeah, I don't know. That's just one thought process. Jason says, I reckon a cripple hammer will hit the A7R4. I'm thinking he meant A7R5. I'm sure he did. Yeah, I know. That's oh, Jason, for you to say that is means a lot more. Not because I don't know. Well, I know Jason sometimes has does some testing for Sony and things like that. I don't know if he would be that would be down his wheelhouse. I know he's more video centric at this point, but yeah, I'd hate to see Sony hold back even more so than they've had as of recently. And I think the happy clam has also kind of hit the nail on the head too. Protecting the A1 does sound more like what Sony would do. I hope that's not the case. Because to me, if the 50 megapixels is the new flagship level and the new sports action level is 51 megapixels or 50 megapixels, then the high resolution needs to be higher than that. Jason says, haha, nah, I know nothing here, unfortunately. Yeah, and I'm sure if you didn't know, you couldn't tell me, but I don't think you'd go out of your way to say you didn't know either. So yeah, and maybe that camera's too far out for anybody to be testing. I mean, that's a month away. So maybe some people have it in their hands, like I don't know, what are the Sony ambassadors or whatever. Maybe they have it in their hands, but maybe YouTubers do not yet. Jason, I don't know if this will get you in trouble or not. So if this will get you in trouble, just don't answer or whatever. But I think I can be broad enough. So if you're getting a review unit for a camera, I might have asked you in this past, but if you're getting a review unit for any camera that's going to be announced from any system or whatever the case is, what is like a general timeline of, okay, I'm testing this camera out. This camera will be coming out in 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks. What is usually the timeline, or is it fairly random? I think it was the Sony ZV-E10, because that camera kept getting delayed because of supply chain. I think people had tested that out was it like 2 months before or something crazy? But I think that was a rarity. I think usually it's like 2 to 4 weeks before, if I'm not mistaken. But Jason, you've actually dealt with doing review stuff. So I guess the question I'm asking is, if the A7R5 is coming out the 26th, will reviewers already have it in their hands, or do you think it would still be maybe a couple weeks away? So yeah, I don't know. So yeah, is anybody Long Rider? You still there? I don't know if he's dropped out already. What is your thought process on the A7R5? Long Rider does a lot of great bird photography. So I don't think he's probably as interested in that high of a megapixel sensor. Oh, excuse me. He actually dropped down to. Oh, okay. He actually dropped down to the A9 because he wanted smaller megapixels. I think he was going to have like the A1 at one point. But yeah, I think I don't think that's necessarily his cup of tea, but we'll see. I guess whatever it has in it. Jason Moore says, "Do you think it will have 4K 120?" No, I just don't. No, I guess they could do some pixel binning 4K 120. I guess it's possible, but I mean, I think 4K 60 would be where it's at. Now, I guess the interesting part. This is what I thought they were going to be doing with the A7 IV. I thought that they were going to have 4K 60 pixel binning in full frame. So do whatever they did with the A1 doing the pixel binning. So you would get a full 4K 60 full frame even if it's doing the pixel binning thing, and then they would have the crop like they do, and then that would be like the full readout of or whatever the thing with the non-pixel binning 4K 60. I thought that that's what they were going to do with the A7 IV, and I was very shocked that they did not give a full frame 4K 120. So yeah, I don't think that the A7R5 would have 4K 120 unless it's like highly cropped. I guess that's possible, but I know the A7R5 is usually very still centric first. But they've also talked about 8K being a thing in it now going forward. Um, so I mean, if it's a 61 megapixel sensor, they could have some. What would it be like? 11K or 10K downsampled to 8K if it's going from the full sensor. If it could be cropped 8K, I guess, but that would be, I don't know what the crop it would be. Now that would be like, I don't know. I think it crops down on the A7R4 if it's at 61. I think it crops down to 5K downsampled 4K. So in the APS-C crop. So I don't know. I don't know exactly how it would work. Sorry, I'm not super informed on that here. But if they're doing 8K, I would be shocked if it's oversampled 8K. I don't know, could be pixel binning 8K. So it was odd when I saw that they were even talking about 8K with that camera, or at least Sony Alpha Rumors has been talking about 8K with that camera. I just didn't expect that would be a thing. So yeah, we'll see. Long Rider says, I'm not interested in anything that doesn't have a stacked sensor. I would love a cropped camera, but Sony seems to want to stick with those antiquated bricks. Talking about the A6600, I'm sure. Yeah, that sucks. I don't know why they're not doing. Well, Long Rider and I talked and speculated that if the FX30 is a thing, that maybe that's the direction they're going. With their APS-C line, and not necessarily that they won't eventually have a flagship, but because of supply chain restraints and not wanting to compete right away, they're going with the FX30 first, and then maybe we have a A60 something after that. I still think that it makes sense for them to change over the Sony ZV-E whatever to maybe have a Sony ZV-E 20 or 30 or whatever you want to call it, and just drop the A66 thing, because it seems like that's almost died. I think it's so confusing at this point to have the crop sensor multiple naming conventions. It just seems odd. So not to say that they shouldn't. I just think it would be a high end APS-C camera in a ZV-E, marketing. Basically, that's all I'm thinking. If they do it, but it seems like you're right, Long Rider. They don't seem to be interested in APS-C. The Happy Clam. I'm hoping the FX30 has 4K 120 and rolling shutter and fixed rolling shutter. Yeah, I think it will. I'm not saying the rolling shutter is going to be perfect, because it probably won't, but it's definitely a new sensor. It's the 26 megapixels. If it's 26, it's new. It could be, I guess everybody's speculating if it would be that stacked sensor that came from the Fujifilm, the XH2S. If it's that sensor, it will be an impressive camera, because I think that sensor is an impressive sensor. It's just lacking Sony autofocus. So I don't know, because I know they develop for Fujifilm in the past. I felt like there was better contracts written out, like it was more specific. So like a Fujifilm, essentially Sony couldn't just instantly use Fujifilm sensors. But from what I've heard from people that's just commented, they said that this day and age, they don't think that Fujifilm fully contracted that out, and that Sony would have, or I guess they didn't pay for all the R&D on that. So maybe that was kind of the compromise of, hey, we'll develop the sensor, but we're using it right away too. So anyways, I don't know. Interesting thoughts. But I think we're in for some good. I think he thinks that September He said, okay, I believe he said that the end of September. I thought he said September 28th. Um, is going to be the announcement of the FX30. I think that was his thing. I was thinking this new ZV camera was coming before the FX30. Um, but yeah, so if that's the case, then any day now we should be hearing the FX30. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Um, Jason says, "You're happy with pixel bend or high resolutions cropped images?" I just want the option. I'm not saying that high pixel bend is the best. Of course, it's not the best for quality, um, and the crop is best. But I think you should have the option. So if somebody wants that full frame 4K 60, then give them that, and then have the high resolution version that's not bended. And that's what they do in the A7R4. You have 4K 30 that's pixel bending at 61 megapixels, so it's does the pixel bending thing. It's full sensor, and then you have a cropped 4K 30 from 5K to 4K. So I just would like the option personally. I think that's the best way to go, because then it gives the Sony A7 IV full frame 4K 60. So I think the option is, I'll take option C, which is A and B. But also, speaking of pixel bending, that's what they do in the A1. They do pixel bending 4K, 120, I think, for 4 different 4K. And apparently, according to Jared Undone, um, he says that that's like amazing pixel bending. So I don't know if they just fixed everything, but he seemed to be very impressed. If you're here and you're watching and you're not in the chat, obviously jump in the chat. We appreciate it. If you're just watching, you want to hang out and listen, hit that like button. We'll get this out to more people, and we'll have an even more information from or more opinions from more people. Okay, so let me see. But I mean, am I wrong? What about you, Jason? I'm thinking that your comment, you're more pro high res cropped image. I don't know. Maybe I'm just reading that in a different way. But personally, I like the idea of both. So yeah, maybe everybody else's opinion. Does that make sense on that or no? Oh, you're more pixel bend. Okay. So pixel bend to me gets a bad rap. Uh, so I'm confused on, is you said so you don't mind a softer image. Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of there's a double edge to it, because I think like the FX3, there is having a soft image is really good. Like a cinema camera has their soft image, um, which is good for video, um, or good for cinematic looking or video. A lot of cinema cameras do. I know your FX6 has that softer image, uh, but I guess I feel like when they do it more purposeful, then that's good. But if it's kind of just a limitation of your sensor, then I wonder if that's not going to be as impressive. Um, I don't know. Maybe that's just out there. Just I feel like I don't know why it gets such a bad rap. I've never. I had the Sony A7R4 and it was super sharp in my mind. But I think that the lenses will play a bigger factor than just the bending. Um, so yeah. Um, Lee CJ said hi or hey. Is it hi? I think hi. Hey would be HEY. Hi. Well, hi to you. Um, I'm glad you're here. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate you joining the chat. Um, do you think rolling shutter is a big issue? Thoughts? I guess it just. I think it depends on who you are. I think it can be a big issue. I think that the Sony ZV-E10 rolling shutters like destroys that camera in some ways, because of the way it's supposedly meant to be shot. Now, if you're using it like a beginner YouTuber, not even beginner, you could be whatever YouTuber you want to be, and you're either using it for like a an overhead shot, and you want to be able to match the colors really well, uh, or if you want to have just even a locked off shot and you're well lit and everything, you have it in a studio, that's fine. But the way that they like literally marketed it all around was like, oh, I'm a vlogger, and if you ever saw anybody that was vlogging with it, then you get a lot of bad rolling shutter. So if you're doing vlogging, then I think rolling shutter is bad. Yeah, the A66, it was the same sensor as the A6600. Um, so I definitely think it's an issue depending on what you're doing. Now, if you're doing shots that you're more cut off, and maybe you don't have like a lot of fast moving shots, you're doing slow pans, or maybe you have a lot of cut off, and I find myself doing more of that than I used to. I mean, I know a lot of people are like camera movement's big, uh, but I mean, I think if you're doing fast cuts and you have really good composition, I think that can be a great form of storytelling as well. So I don't know. Maybe I didn't answer your question directly, but I think it really does depend on your type of video. But I would rather a camera not have the issue, just so I would have the option. So uh, I don't know. So yes and no. Uh, but yeah, I guess what do you think? Because you had the A7 IV, and I know that there was some complaints of rolling shutter on that. Do you find that being hindering, or do you think that it is even that bad, or was it overblown? Because I feel like there was some um, rolling shutter complaints, and I'm not sure if that was justified or not. Lee CJ, I'm only Sony A7R5, so you're talking about you're here for that part of it. Well, I appreciate you being here either way. Yeah, we were just talking about it. We can continue to talk about it. Wait. Yeah, we were talking about it. Just what is your? We were just talking about the release date. Supposed to be October 26th at 3 p.m. of London time, according to Sony Alpha rumors. We were kind of going over speculation what the specs would be. So maybe throw in some of your speculations, Lee, and we can talk about those. Um, the Happy Clam said rolling shutter is atrocious with the A6600 and 70 to 350 even on a gimbal. Yeah, well that would be 70 to 350 is going to be a hard one anyways. I know gimbal anytime you got that reach is just which it's not even just rolling at shutter would be the issue at that point. Stabilization in general would be hard to do. But yeah, the A6600 is the same sensor that's in the E10, and that was having so many rolling shutter issues. It's really bad when rolling shutter is so bad that you can't just kind of like turn the camera with you in the frame without things looking jello-y. I remember when people were like vlog testing the E10, and from everything I saw, people were just like walking down the road, and next thing you know, it was just like, I was like, okay, that's ridiculous rolling shutter. Um, Now they had that auto crop in thing that they did where it was like stabilization, which was fine, and it seemed to fix a lot of that issues. It may be it might be. I don't think I'm wrong in saying this because I know that the stabilization wasn't very good as well until you had the active stab on, which was incredible, but then it cropped too much. Um, So yeah, I don't know. I thought the ZV-E10 was kind of a little odd, but apparently it sold really well. So what do I know? And I could see it being a great YouTuber camera. Like as far as people, if you're a mom or whoever, and you have a YouTube channel that you're starting, and it's about anything. Like could be cooking, could be that's mean. You're saying mom and then cooking, whatever. Could be a makeup channel, could be any type of channel you're doing. If it's not like you need to be outside camera related type stuff, and you're in a studio with good lighting, you can get a Sony ZV-E10 to give you great image for in studio work or in a home studio work. Personally, I think so. My internet's probably about to go out because there's about to be a downpour. Um, hey, yeah, we've been going for right in an hour, about to hit the hour mark. Let's see. Jason Moore says, "Who is this new Cineline camera for? Whatever camera that it is that's meant to be coming in a couple days." The Sony FX30. I think it's for the. I guess it would be for beginner entry cinema cameras. Sorry if my lighting is getting really bad. I use this window usually for lighting, daylight, and for some reason I forgot to turn off the overhead lighting, and it's about to storm outside. So if my internet goes bad, I'm sorry. It's about to storm outside, so I'm losing light. But yeah, the new Cinema Line camera, I would assume that it would be for new beginner level entry people, I guess. I mean, that's for lack of a better term, because if it's going to be a $2,500 camera, it's definitely going to be getting people introduced to the cinema line. It's going to be their cheapest cinema camera. Sorry, things are getting loud here because with the storms about to happen. So in Vietnam, we hang out our clothes to dry, and it was about to rain, so my wife's pulling everything in. So sorry if things are getting out of hand, and my answers aren't as concise. So what do you think, Jason? Am I right in what I'm saying here? I can also see it being great for people with a B cam. Yeah, Ronan. People with a B cam, I can see it being great for like a second cam for people like you, Jason, who have the FX 30, or sorry, the FX6 as your A cam for at least your more professional work. To have another 10-bit camera that has a lot of the same features that can be set up with the same menu system as other FX cameras, I think that would be great for a lot of secondary shots. So I think it is for a two thing. I think it would be for a second B cam for people who are a little bit more high up like yourself, and I think it's a good beginner cinema camera for people who are wanting to get into cinema cameras but maybe don't have $3,900 to spend on an Ace or FX3. What about you, Jason? Who do you think it's for, or do you think I summed it up? You think I'm right? Hmm? He's hanging out. You want to go see Mama? No, we can't play. Oh, come on, buddy. Dad has to talk here. Oh, Dad'll be done play in just a minute. Dad'll play in just a minute. Dad'll play in just a minute. So yeah, sorry about all the commotion here. Jason says, "Yeah, I'd imagine a B cam for me if the rumors are true. Rumor price is pretty crazy cheap. It would sell like hotcakes." Yeah, I mean $2,500. Specs sound too good to be true. Yeah, they really do. But I don't know. I don't know if there's really been any confirmed specs. I guess the reason why the 26 megapixels means that it could be 6K. But I don't think that anybody's really said that it's going to be 6K. Now, it could be that oversampled 6K, 4K. But if it goes 4K 120, then you're right. It's really impressive. So I don't know. It does sound a little too good to be true. I think it'll be nerfed in some way, unfortunately. But if they don't, then they have a lot of people who are going to love that camera. But 2500, it's kind of interesting to me. I guess it just depends. Like a lot of people were giving Fujifilm crap for having a $2,500 APS-C camera, but now a cinema camera APS-C camera is $2,500. Okay. Okay. So I am going to have to get off. This guy's wanting to play. It's been a little sorry, it's been a little chaotic at the end. But we've been going for about an hour and 5 minutes. I think we've covered most of the topics. I hate to cut it off because I know we're still chatting, but the boss is calling. This is actually my boss's boss. So my wife's the boss, and he's her boss. So he gets what he wants. So what do I think? So I'm gonna answer this last question, and then we'll go through. So Jason says, "What do you think the cripple hammer would be on this camera?" Oh God, that's a good question. Well, I think that probably not adding 6K, even though they could, would be a fairly big cripple. Um, I could see them adding an additional crop to 4K 120. So you have an APS-C crop, but then maybe put an additional crop on top of that to get 4K 120. So you would have the 4K or 4K 60 cropped APS-C. So that could essentially make it like a Sony A7 4 or A7 IV or whatever. Um, so yeah, maybe that would be two things that it could do that would fairly cripple it. It wouldn't be that bad, but it would be bad enough. So maybe have, it would be down. That would basically make this the APS-C mode in the A7 IV is already 6K or 7K downsampled to 4, right? 7K, or no, that's the 4K 60. So this would maybe be higher end 4K 60, but then add a crop for the 4K 120. I can see them doing that, and that makes the fastest cripple in my mind. Hopefully, they can control rolling shutter, and then also if they have the ability to add 6K and they just don't because they want to protect the line, that I think in a way that's another cripple, to to a degree. Because so yeah, those are two things that I would go. What is your thoughts? What do you think? How do you think they would cripple this camera? And then I'm gonna have to make it off. The Happy Clem says, "You guys have fun. Thanks for the show." Thank you. I think we will have a good time. Gonna hang out for a couple hours and then I have to do some more work. If you're here and you joined us, I always appreciate it. Thank you so much. I feel like more people were able to talk at this time than on Saturday night. So just always just try to get feedback on if this time slot works better. I've been doing Saturday nights, but maybe Monday nights is better for people. I don't know. Maybe I need to move things around. But yeah, I appreciated everybody being here. Muh, that's rain. Yes, muh is rain in Vietnamese, and so he's been calling everything that's water muh, and we've been arguing with him. But that is muh. You're right. Okay, I'm gonna get off of here and play with him. I appreciate everybody who showed up. If you're watching this on the replay, I appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed, that always helps out the channel and is great as well. And I definitely I get extra motivation when I see subscribers, and I'm glad that people are doing what they're doing. Until next time, see everybody. Peace.